Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your time and association. As we continue, Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 17, verses 28 to 41, completing the chapter, and we'll also start with Chapter 18 on this auspicious day of Hera Panchami. So interesting festival. Mother Lakshmi gets upset that Lord Jagannath did not arrive yet. Lord Jagannath, they had a Rath Yatra procession from Jagannath Puri to Gundicha temple, and Lord Jagannath went. He said, in some cases they say, he didn't tell Lakshmi Devi. In some instances they say that Lord Jagannath said he'll be back in 2 days. And Lakshmi Devi has been waiting, and then she gets upset. And then she goes to the Gundicha temple. She's very upset. And when Lord Jagannath gets the message that Lakshmi Devi is at the entrance and she is not very happy, she's very upset, they close the door and they don't allow her in. And now she gets even more upset. She breaks part of Lord Jagannath's chariot and then goes to Sri Mandir. And then when they've completed the festivities at Gundicha and are going back to Jagannath Puri, then Lord Jagannath goes to the Sri Mandir, receives Lakshmi Devi, and it pleases her, and then they come back to Jagannath Puri. But when they come to the Jagannath temple, Balaram and Subhadra, Devi goes in, and Lord Jagannath is going in, the door gets closed by the order of Lakshmi Devi. He's not allowed to enter because she's still upset. And then Lord Jagannath has to please her again, so then he makes garlands for her and offers her sweet. I think it's rasgulla. It's like a rasgulla sweet. Offers, it's like a sweet festival also. They celebrate by honoring this festival. Lakshmi Devi becomes very pleased with the prayers and sweets and offering gifts, and then of Lord Jagannath, and then Lord Jagannath is able to enter. So this pastime is also today, and it's also the disappearance of Ayendra Prabhu, who was a very dear servant of Srila Prabhupada, disciple and servant of Srila Prabhupada, very attached to the holy name, and he was one of the main devotees instrumental in reviving and resuscitating the 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan, and a very, very amazing soul, very special servant of Srila Prabhupada. So he also, his disappearance is also today. All right, let us continue. Om Jnanatmi Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantika. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Prayusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhantaratnadya Sarva Loka Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalibando Didaritya Shri Krishna Parivartita Srimad Bhagavatam. O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures. O most prominent translate fruit of all the Vedas. O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions. O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world. O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshasha Rayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables reign pure love of God upon the reader. You always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madekabando, Matsange, Madguru, Mahadana, Man Nishtaraka Madbhagya, Madananda, Namastute, O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu tadahin atini chochataraka hanamuncha kada chinmam premna ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintly to unsaintly, O uplift the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest. Mahatma told, accompany pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yutanvayaritarata Charte Swabhigna Swarat Tene Brahmayadaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargam Risha Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuakam Satyam Param Dhimaihi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, all pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him even great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen in water. Only because of him did the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature appear factual, though they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent and transcendental both, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanalpayasha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Mateo Mandabag Yupadrida, all in one in Sainaj Kali, many but short lies, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayan Maskritya Narachevam Darotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudira. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Naran Narayan Rishi, the supreme human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasa, the author. Savapum Suparodamo Yato Bhaktira Dokshija Ahitaka Parti Ata Yatna Suprasiddhati. Supreme occupation, Dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotion to the transcendent Lord. Such devotional souls must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojito Janayati Savairagyam Yanam Chaya Dahaitakam. By rendering devotional service under the person of the Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti Tatta Pravedas Tattvam Yajgnadamadvayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Sabhyate. Learned transcendentals who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shrishushoshadanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syanmahansevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. Shranutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Riddhantusta Vedyantustoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and a benefactor with a truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment from the heart of the devotees, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki. By regular attendance in the classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the person of the Godhead, who is praised or transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings as Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna and welcome. Let us cover some feedback from chapter 17, verses 28 to 41, and not 71. Anyone has any feedback from last week's session? Please type in the chat. We will try to get to 6 o'clock because there's load shedding at 6, so hopefully we can finish on time. Madhachana Siri says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, the meaning of sacrifice is to accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord and therefore acts by which the Lord may be satisfied in all respects. Yes, Prabhupada gave a wonderful definition of sacrifice. Real sacrifice doesn't just mean sacrificing in the sense of sacrificing, but really understanding that understanding the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, who is the Supreme Lord, and that act of sacrifice is meant for pleasing him and him only. Sharvina says, Hare Krishna, Haribol, please accept my obeisance and appreciation. The lesson from Kali, we should surrender to Krishna. That way we will be protected. We should engage in sacrifice for the pleasure of Krishna. If we experience something, we should not point out the perpetrator, and we should not also be attached to what happens to the perpetrator. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that feedback. Yes, Kali is teaching us. Kali could surrender to Maharaj Parikshit and be protected by Maharaj Parikshit. If an enemy can be given shelter and be protected, what to talk about somebody who sincerely, seriously wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why would that soul not be given shelter and protected? So we have to have that faith that if I surrender to the Supreme Lord, I will be protected. Krishna will protect us. And whatever happens when we surrender, that is up to Krishna. It's interesting how sometimes we follow the process of surrendering, but then we still dictate to Krishna how we want the outcome to be. That is not surrender. Surrender means I surrender to Krishna. I have faith he will do whatever is required to protect according to his plan for his pleasure, and whatever he arranges, that I should accept because I'm surrendered. Sometimes, for example, somebody who has a servant, they may give the servant a task that the servant does not like. Sometimes they may give the servant a task that he appreciates. Sometimes they give him a service that he enjoys. So for the servant, it's not, why am I getting this task? No, it is about getting the task and completing it. Whether he likes it or not, he's the servant. And if the master requests, his duty is to obey. So like that, when we surrender, we should have firm faith Krishna will, and Krishna promises to protect those who surrender. And therefore, we should have firm faith, surrender, and leave the rest to Krishna. Shamanan Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, but this personality, Kali, where is he residing? Before he appears at the start of Kali Yuga and the previous ages. So Kali is, according to what I have read, and I guess we could research this further, but he is a demigod. Like all aspects of creation have a personality, presiding personality. So the presiding personality of the age of Kali is Kali. There are also different other ages, Satya Yuga, Tetra Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. So all the four ages have their presiding deity, presiding personality. So Kali is also a presiding personality. And that's his service. See, just like Mother Durga, she has to keep souls in the prison, and with a trident, she administers Adi-Devik, Adi-Bhautik, Adi-Atmic suffering. But yet, she is a pure devotee of Krishna. So then if she's a pure devotee of Krishna, why is she administering these three types of suffering? If the demigods are servants of Krishna, then why do they administer earthquakes, torrential rain, all different types of suffering, illnesses? If Krishna is merciful and kind to all the devotees, he's got servants who are in charge or have, their personalities in charge of different diseases. So we in the material world, we in the prison house, therefore we will be inflicted by suffering by those who are supervising the suffering. But the suffering that is administered is also authorized or sanctioned by the supersoul. They can't just administer whimsically, but as per the sanction of the supersoul. So Kali also, he is a personality of this age. That's his duty, that's his service. He's the bad guy, but sometimes in the movie, you have to act as the bad guy, and sometimes you have to act as a good guy. So Kali's got that role. Consider Yamaraj. Yamaraj also, he's the Lord of Death. Who wants to die? Nobody. So then Yamaraj got a bad position, bad role. Everybody hates him. But he's a pure devotee of Krishna. That's his service. So like that, Kali also is a personality. He's a servant of Krishna, and he does his service very, very attentively. He's very, very minutely attentive to making sure that he will follow his service description. This is his service description. He will make sure increase illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, meat eating, hypocrisy, quarrel, etc. That's his service description. And he makes sure he carries it out wonderfully. All right, thank you very much. Let us proceed. Srila Prabhupada's power statements. The personality of Kali is he who deliberately commits all kinds of sinful acts which are forbidden in the revealed scriptures. This age of Kali will certainly be full of all activities of Kali. But this does not mean that the leaders of the society, the executive heads, the learned and intelligent men, above all the devotees, should sit down tightly and become callous to the reactions of the age of Kali. Kali is a personality, and his influence can rub off anyone who is not vigilant about their surrender to Krishna. So therefore, we have to be careful not to be influenced by the age of Kali. So we have to be very Krishna conscious and Maya cautious or Kali cautious. Both have to be there. I need to be very Krishna conscious, and I have to be very Kali and Maya cautious. There are different countries in different parts of the world, and each and every country may have different types of sacrifice to please the Supreme Lord. But the central point in pleasing him is ascertained in the Bhagavatam, and it is truthfulness. The basic principle of religion is truthfulness, and the ultimate goal of all sacrifice is to satisfy the Lord. In this age of Kali, the greatest common formula of sacrifice, Sankirtan Yakya. A surrendered soul should be given all protection, even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy, but as a devoted servitor. So we're completing this last section of the Bhagavatam, 42 to 25. I think we had the wrong verses on the previous slide. So this is till the end of the chapter. Okay, 42. Vrishasya nastam trin padan tapasocham dhayamiti pratishanda da ashvasya mahim cha samavardayat. Thereafter, the king re-established the lost legs of the personality of religion, the bull, and by encouraging the activities, he sufficiently improved the condition of the earth. So Kali was breaking the legs, meaning infiltrating and polluting, destroying the four pillars of religion. And Maharaj Parikshit was re-establishing those principles, meaning he was healing the bull's lost legs. Okay? So there's the symbolic, but at the same time, there's the practical application. Kali can influence, and Krishna conscious can influence to negate Kali's influence. Purport. By designating particular places for the personality of Kali, Maharaj Parikshit practically cheated Kali. In the presence of Kali, Dharma in the shape of a bull and earth in the shape of a cow, he could actually estimate the general condition of his kingdom. And therefore, he at once took proper steps to re-establish the lost legs of the bull, namely austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. And for the general benefit of the people of the world, he saw that the gold stock might be employed for stabilization, Gold is certainly a generator of falsity, intoxication, prostitution, enmity, violence. But under the guidance of a proper king or public leader, or a brahmana or sannyasi, the same gold can be properly utilized to reestablish the lost legs of the bull, the personality of religion. So gold, when it's hoarded and when it's not directed by Guru Sadhu Shastra, by a Krishna conscious leader, then it is detrimental. And we see, just like there are many, wealthy people in this world, but with that wealth gives them greater opportunity for exploitation. And that becomes a disservice, that becomes the danger, that becomes, they think they are successful, but that same success destroys them because they do not have that guidance of how to use, or rather to understand that any resource is the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, every resource that one has been given by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, must be used for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, for extolling the glories of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, that same resource becomes the force of destruction for one. So one has to be very careful. Therefore, Prabhupada was making the point that, yes, even though Kali was given gold as a place of residence, but that is gold that's exploited for sense gratification. Whereas we find Maj Yudhishthir, the Pandavas, they use gold in the service of Krishna. They had to collect so much wealth and gold for the Rajasuya sacrifice. So in so many ways, they engage everything in the service of Krishna. Maj Parikshit, therefore, like his grandfather Arjuna, collected all illicit gold kept for the propensities of Kali and employed it in the Sankirtan Yagya as per the instructions of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is ideal. That is what we should do. If we have the resources, if we have the capacity, then this is how we engage our capacity in us employing it in serving the Sankirtan mission. As we have suggested before, one's accumulated wealth may be divided into three parts for distribution, namely 50% for the service of the Lord, 25% for family members, and 25% for personal necessities. Spending 50% for the service of the Lord or for the propagation of spiritual knowledge in society by way of Sankirtan Yajna is the maximum display of human mercy. People of the world are generally in darkness regarding spiritual knowledge, especially in regard to the devotional service of the Lord. And therefore, to propagate the systematic transcendental knowledge of devotional service is the greatest mercy that one can show in this world. When everyone is taught to sacrifice 50% of his accumulated gold for the service, Lord's service, certainly austerity, cleanliness, mercy automatically ensure. And thus, the three lost legs of the personality of religion are automatically established. When there is sufficient austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, naturally Mother Earth is completely satisfied, and there is very little chance for Kali to infiltrate of human society. So here we see it is very, very important to use one's resources and engage one's resources in establishing and spreading systematic transcendental knowledge of devotional service. This is a very important service, and Prabhupada said the greatest mercy can be shown by this. Why? Because knowledge is like the torchlight. It can direct, it can shine, it can reveal. By giving people the power of knowledge, the torchlight of knowledge, it facilitates. We can see in our own lives how the power of Srila Prabhupada's knowledge and wisdom has helped us in so many ways to maneuver through the challenges of this world. And therefore, if we in return use all our resources in doing the same thing, in propagating the message of Krishna consciousness, and this is the greatest welfare work that we can render. 43 and 44. Sa esha etaryadya dyasta ashanam parthivochitam pitamaheno pan yastam Rajna Rajgnaranyam Vivikshata Aste Duna Sarajashi Kauravendra Shriyo Lasan Gajavaye Mahabhagas Chakravarti Brihatchrava. The most fortunate emperor Parikshit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Maj Yudhishthir, when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. Purport. The prolonged sacrificial ceremonies undertaken by the sages of Naimisharanya were begun shortly after the demise of Maj Parikshit. The sacrifice was to continue for 1,000 years, and it is understood that in the beginning, some of the contemporaries of Baladev, the elder brother of Lord Krishna, also visited the sacrificial place. According to some authorities, the present tense is also used to indicate the nearest margin of time from the past. In that sense, the present tense is applied to the reign of Maj Parikshit year. For a continuous fact, also, present tense can be used. The principle of Maj Parikshit can be still continued, and human society can still be improved if there is determination by the authorities. We can still purge out from the state all the activities of immorality introduced by the person of Kali if we are determined to take action like Maj Parikshit. He allotted some place for Kali, but in fact Kali could not find any such place in the world at all because Maj Parikshit was strictly vigilant to see that there was no places for gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. Modern administrators want to banish corruption from the state, but fools that they are, they do not know how to do it. They want to issue licenses for gambling houses, shops selling wine and other intoxication, brothel, prostitution houses, and cinema houses, and they allow falsity in all dealings, even their own. And at the same time, they want to drive out corruption from the state. They want the kingdom of God without God consciousness. How can it be possible to adjust two contradictory matters? If we want to drive out corruption from the state, we must first of all organize society to accept the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And to make the condition favorable, we must close all places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. These are some of the practical lessons from the pages of the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada is not beating around the bush, and is making it very, very clear. If at all we have some hope that our governments will eradicate corruption, then Bhagavatam is smashing those hopes. Why? Because their formula is completely flawed. And Prabhupada is highlighting the flaw that you cannot license the activities of Kali and say that this is how you eradicating corruption. You cannot eradicate corruption if within your own being Kali resides. So if they want to eradicate corruption, it needs to start from the inside, and then it needs to filter out, and they need to eradicate all the places where Kali flourishes. Then only is there a possible chance of them establishing a God-conscious state country where there is no corruption. Otherwise, it's simply a play of words, or they, say, yeah, what can we do? It's everybody else without, and not me. And life goes on, corruption goes on, and exploitation goes on, and the age of Kali continues. This is also a lesson for us as individuals, that we also need to be free from the activities of Kali and try as best as possible to avoid associating or promoting any activities related to the agents of Kali. 45. Itam bhuta nu bhavoyam abhimanyu suto nripa yasya pa layata shaunim yam satra tishiktaha. Maj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this. The Brahmanas and the Sannyasis are expert in spiritual advancement of society, whereas the Kshatriyas or administrators are expert in material peace and prosperity for human society. So both these two aspects have to be there. Spiritual advancement of the society and material advancement of the society. The spiritual advancement of the society is managed by the Brahmanas and the Sannyasis, and the material prosperity and peace is managed by the Kshatriyas and administrators, basically the Kshatriyas. So in this way, there is both peace from a material and spiritual perspective. All of them are the pillars of happiness, and therefore they are meant for full cooperation for common welfare. Maj Parikshit was experienced enough to drive away Kali from his field of activities and thereby make the state receptive to spiritual enlightenment. If the common people are not receptive, it is very difficult to impress upon them the necessity of spiritual enlightenment. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, the basic principle of religion, prepare the ground for the reception of advancement in spiritual knowledge, and Maj Parikshit made this favorable condition possible. Thus, rishis of Naimisharanya were able to perform the sacrifices for 1,000 years. In other words, without state support, no doctrine or philosophy or religious principles can progressively advance. There should be a complete cooperation between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas for this common good. Even up to Maj Ashoka, the same spirit was prevailing. Lord Buddha was sufficiently supported by King Ashoka, and thus his particular cult of knowledge was spread all over the world. Thus ends the Bhakti purport of the first canto, 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Punishment and Reward of Kali. So, a very wonderful chapter illustrating good governance, the importance of proper leadership, spiritual leadership, and if there is proper spiritual leadership like Maj Parikshit, who then supports and encourages the Brahmanas, the Sannyasis, to spread Krishna consciousness, to establish spiritual life within society, and also to keep Kali at bay, checked, then this helps the society gain material peace, spiritual prosperity and peace. And in this way, they will be happy. So very, very instructive for leaders, especially, to follow in the footsteps of Maj Parikshit. And individually for us to understand that we have to be fearful of Kali. We have to be cautious and very careful of not allowing Kali to infiltrate. Kali will find the smallest gap to penetrate and then expand and explode from that small gap. So we should always, therefore, be very diligent, keep good spiritual association, be very, very serious of our sadhana. And in this way, if we do that, at least we shield ourselves and protect ourselves. We constantly associate with Srila Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada will keep us on our toes. Prabhupada will warn us again and again. So in this way, we are reminded. Without that constant remembrance, constant reminding factor, we will fall prey and slowly sidetrack. And if we sidetrack, Kali won't say, yeah, okay, I'm busy, it's okay, you can carry on. No, Kali will immediately take that opportunity Kali is vigilant. He doesn't get exhausted. He doesn't get tired. In fact, when Kali sees that Krishna consciousness is spreading, when Kali sees you are more serious about Krishna, he becomes more agitated. He wants to stop you with greater vigor. So you can consider, if you trying to become more Krishna conscious, Kali will take full advantage, and he's becoming more and more aggravated to find every single loophole to distract and deviate your attention and focus. As soon as you become casual and start to give Kali one reason, one avenue, he will take full advantage. He's a very, very good opportunist. He does not waste an opportune moment. Kali is diligent. So we have to be more cautious and careful. So now we're going to continue with 18th chapter, verses 1 to 10. March Parikshit, cursed by a Brahmin boy. So first 10 verses. The last chapter we discussed the ills of Kali Yuga, with the age of Kali, symptoms of Kali, dangers of Kali. Now in this chapter, in the first 10 verses, we're going to discuss, Bhagavatam is going to be Bhagavatam is sharing with us the benefit of Kali Yuga. So it's not all doom and gloom. Right? It's actually a very glorious age. So let us proceed. Text 1. Suto vacham yo vai dron astra vi plus to namatur ader mritya anugrahad bhagavata krishnasya bhutakarmana. Sri Suta Goswami said, due to the mercy of the personality of God, Shri Krishna, who acts wonderfully, Maj Parikshit got struck by the weapons of the son of Drona in his mother's womb, could not be burnt. Purport. The sages of Namisharanya became struck with wonder after hearing about the wonderful administration of Maj Parikshit, especially in reference to his punishing the personality of Kali and making him completely unable to do any harm within the kingdom. Suta Goswami was equally anxious to describe Maj Parikshit's wonderful birth and death, and this verse is stated by Suta Goswami to increase the interest of the sages of Namisharanya. So after hearing how Kali, Maj Parikshit was saved by Krishna himself in the womb, they discussed how Kali how Maj Parikshit was saved in the womb of Uttara by Krishna, and how Maj Parikshit chastised Kali. The sages were very, very struck with wonder and astonished, and they were eager to know more about Maj Parikshit's life of such an extraordinary personality. So they were very eager to hear. Text 2. Brahma kopati tat yastu takshakat pranap viplavat nasam mumo horud bayad bhagavatyar pitasayam. Furthermore, Maj Parikshit was always consciously surrendered to the personality of Godhead, and therefore he was neither afraid nor overwhelmed by fear due to the snake bird which was to bite him because of the fury of a Brahmin boy. So now we heard about Maj Parikshit's birth, and now we're getting the introduction to Maj Parikshit's death. And in this particular verse, very important word is used. Maj Parikshit was always consciously surrendered to the personality of Godhead. It's a conscious effort to be Krishna conscious. It is only spontaneous and automatic after years and years of conscious practice. So therefore, we have to be diligent. We have to be active. We have to take the effort and consciously make the effort to be Krishna conscious. By doing that constantly, again and again and again and again, and we become purified by that activity of consciously surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then what happens is when the heart becomes purified and the pure love is revived, now we don't need to be consciously Krishna conscious. Now it is spontaneous Krishna consciousness. We cannot help it but be Krishna conscious. So before that time can come, we have to be conscious. And when we do that and we surrender to Krishna, especially at a time of death, there will be no fear. And we see Maharaj Parikshit again, an exemplary example of a snake bird coming. So he knew how he's going to die. He knew that the snake bird is going to burn him. And there he is, he's seeing the snake bird coming to kill him. He knows it's his last. So an ordinary person would, if an ordinary person knows that this is his death time and he's going through he's actually experiencing that now he's going to die, they'll be very fearful. Maharaj Parikshit was beyond fear. He was not overcome by fear. Why? Because he was completely Krishna conscious, focused and surrendered. A self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called Narayana Parayana. Such a person is never afraid of any place or person, not even death. For him, nothing is as important as the Supreme Lord, and thus he gives equal importance to heaven and hell. He knows well that both heaven and hell are the creations of the Lord, and similarly that life and death are different conditions of existence created by the Lord. Wonderful point by Srila Prabhupada. When Krishna is the center, everything else around Krishna, which is connected to Krishna, does not play a role as much as Krishna being in the center. When Krishna is not in the center, then birth, death, or hell, or heaven, or anything else becomes prominent. And according to what becomes prominent, we either are excited or we feel fear. We either are happy or we are sad, because that place, people, or activity is in the center and not Krishna. When Krishna is in the center of our lives, and we know that everything is connected to Krishna, we know that everything is created by Krishna, like here in this example, heaven and hell. So heaven is created by Krishna, hell is created by Krishna, and that's good. Krishna creates these things, but Krishna is the center. Therefore, if I go to heaven and I keep Krishna in the center, I'm with Krishna. If I go to hell and I keep Krishna in the center, I'm with Krishna. The environment becomes immaterial. Similarly, life and death. If I put Krishna in the center, then taking birth in this world is glorious because Krishna is the center. Dying is glorious because Krishna is in the center. Prabhupada continues, but in all conditions and in all circumstances, he considers remembrance of Narayan essential. Now Prabhupada is bringing it on a practical level. What does it mean to put Krishna in the center? What does it mean to be Krishna conscious? It means remembering Krishna. That's what it means. Putting Krishna in the center, being Krishna conscious, simply means remembrance of Krishna. That's how we measure becoming Krishna conscious. That's how we can increase our Krishna consciousness. That's how we can measure how much Krishna is in the center of our lives. And that's how we can increase bringing Krishna in the center of our lives, simply by remembrance of Krishna. The Narayan Parayana practices this constantly. Maharaj Parikshit was such a pure devotee. He was wrongfully cursed by an inexperienced son of a Brahmana who was under the influence of Kali. And Maharaj Parikshit took this curse to be sent by Narayan. So Prabhupada is giving forthcoming attractions. We're going to be hearing about this. But note, in this whole episode of Maharaj Parikshit getting cursed, note what Prabhupada is saying here. He was wrongfully cursed. So from this statement, Prabhupada is making the point that the Brahmana's son who was inexperienced made the mistake, not Maharaj Parikshit. As we proceed and we come to those sections, we will elaborate, but keep that in mind. And because, and here Prabhupada is saying he was wrongfully cursed, but then how did he react? How did Maharaj Parikshit react to the situation? And Maharaj Parikshit took this curse to be sent by Narayan. He took it as Krishna's favor, Krishna's mercy. So when we heard about seeing the good and the bad as Krishna's mercy, Maharaj Parikshit got the kingdom. He had such a wonderful lineage, wonderful training. He was protected by Krishna. So he sees all this as Krishna's favor. But then he gets cursed to die in 7 days with all this glory behind him. He's ruling, he's the emperor of the world. What else, what more do you want? He's got unlimited opulences at his command. Right? He was protected by Krishna himself in the womb. He was brought up in devotional environment by great devotees of the Lord. So he's in such a glorious position. He gets cursed and he takes it as Krishna's favor. He knew that Narayan, Lord Krishna, had saved him when he was burnt in the womb by his mother, and that if he were to be killed by a snake bite, it would also take place by the will of the Lord. So here we see the practical example of someone who's seeing the glorious activity of protection as the favor of the Lord, and the glorious activity of being killed as the favor of the Lord. The faith that he has. If this is what Krishna wants, so be it. Instead of, in most cases, we would be, fighting the situation, or, why me? Why this? Why, what did I do? I was trying to be a good devotee. Why, why? We keep, wasting our resource and our energy, our mental energy on asking why. Maharaj Parikshit did not waste his energy. Okay, looks like this is what Krishna wants. So that means we can see from how Maharaj Parikshit is reacting, it is clearly a sign of his surrender. It's clearly a sign that he is accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In our case, and I guess I can speak for myself, I may philosophically accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I may not psychologically accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I may philosophically be theistic and psychologically be atheistic. Because with my words, I can preach and say Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But by my actions and my thoughts, I doubt Krishna. I'm having thoughts and emotions of an atheist. So when both my thinking, my emotions, my brain, my head, my heart, what I say and how I act is aligned, that is Krishna consciousness. Maharaj Parikshit was showing that both good and bad, because he surrendered to the Supreme Lord, he's accepting both as the blessing, as the mercy of Krishna, and therefore he is not challenging the situation. Prabhupada continues. The devotee never goes against the will of the Lord. Anything sent by God is a blessing for the devotee. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was neither afraid of nor bewildered by such things. This is a sign of a pure devotee of the Lord. This is what we're striving for. This is the goal. And we'll have so many incidents in our life that puts us through these situations. And we may fail, but then we can reflect back. We may fail, and then we, exposed to such purports, and then we look back and say, I should have think like this. I should have acted like this. I should have seen like this. So this is a learning journey. We are learning progressively. As long as we are on the path, they say, those who seek shall find. So as long as we have that sincerity to stay on the path, we will get all the answers we need. We will need to learn and apply, and we'll get all the practical experiences or practical opportunities to apply our Krishna consciousness. So next time when we're in a situation where it apparently seems unfair, we see, because Prabhupada made it very clear, he was wrongfully cursed. So Maharaj Parikshit didn't call for justice. I want justice. No. If he surrendered, and if Prabhupada already made it very clear, Super Soul is sanctioning. If Super Soul is sanctioning, Super Soul knows. So if Super Soul knows, let him do whatever he needs to do with me. I'm the servant. If Krishna doesn't want it to happen, it won't happen. If Krishna wants it to happen, it will happen. My duty is to serve Krishna. If he wants me to serve him during birth, during death, and in between, so be it. That is the mentality I need to cultivate. So Bhagavatam is helping us cultivate this mood of surrender. Thy will be done. Whatever Krishna wants, so be it. That's the mood. That's the servant's consciousness. 3. Utshrijya sarvata sangam vignata jita samstiti veya sakre jahau shishyo gangayam swam kalevaram. Furthermore, after leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a disciple to the son of Vyas, Sukadeva Goswami, and thus he was able to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. And at last, he gave up his material body on the bank of the Ganges. Purport. The word Ajita is significant here. The personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, is known as Ajita or unconquerable. And he is so in every respect. So this word Ajita, unconquerable. Krishna is unconquerable, and Prabhupada says in every respect, which means that in every situation, Krishna is unconquerable. Krishna will never, ever, ever make a mistake. Implying that whatever situation you're in, if you are a surrendered soul or aspiring soul surrendering to Krishna, Krishna will never make a mistake. Like, oh, what happened here? Why did I get this? Looks like Krishna made a mistake. No, Krishna is Ajita. He never makes a mistake. And in every respect. No one can know his actual position. He is unconquerable by knowledge also. We have heard about his dham or place, eternal Goloka Vrindavan. But there are many scholars who interpret this abode in different ways. But by the grace of the spiritual master like Sukadeva Goswami, unto whom the king gave himself up as a most humble disciple, one is able to understand the actual position of the Lord, his eternal abode, and his transcendental paraphernalia in that dham or abode. So Maharaj Parikshit was very fortunate to get Sukadev Goswami, who is now going to reveal to him the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this unconquerable personality. His abode, his activities, his form, his qualities, his paraphernalia, his pastimes, and his loving associates. All this is going to be broadcasted to Maharaj Parikshit, because Maharaj Parikshit was sincere, and Krishna made arrangement for him to meet Sukadev Goswami. Knowing the transcendental position of the Lord and the transcendental method by which one can approach that transcendental dham, the king was confident about his ultimate destination. And by knowing this, he could leave aside everything material, even his own body, without any difficulty of attachment. Are we going to be put in that situation? You bet. When? You don't know. Maharaj Parikshit was fortunate, he had 7 days. He was given notice. So he was he had the mercy of Krishna in that sense. He was given notice. Now, it's not that we don't have a notice. We do have notice. Look around you. Are there souls leaving this world? Yes, that is notice. So we need to be prepared. And the preparation is not separate from being Krishna conscious. Prabhupada is making it very clear, knowing the transcendental position of the Lord and the transcendental method by which one can approach that transcendental abode, dham. The king was confident about his ultimate destination. We must know about Krishna and the process. Prabhupada has given that to us again and again and again. And don't worry, Prabhupada will give it to us again in the forthcoming purports as well. So when Prabhupada says, everything you need is in my books, he wasn't lying. In fact, we could say, when Prabhupada could have said, I've repeated everything in my books again and again and again for the souls of Kali Yuga. So when we have that, the next qualification we need, as displayed by Maharaj Parikshit, is confidence. We need to have that faith, that trust in what we have been given. When we have the confidence, then there is no fear. So whether we live or die, we will not be in a fearful condition. If we live, wonderful. We have another day to serve Krishna. If we die, wonderful. Tomorrow or the next moment when I die, I will see Krishna. And while I'm dying, I'm remembering Krishna. So I'm Krishna conscious. I can continue rendering service to Krishna. It's just a transition phase. But the key is our attachment to the material world. Have we cultivated sufficient attachment to Krishna so that at the time of death, I can let go? Or am I going to hold back? Oh, what about my credit card? I mean, I got so much money, my credit card. Or what about, my car? Or what about my family, my children? The list goes on. Am I attached? And finally, am I attached to this body? Because the attachment is what is going to bring you back. Now, do we have room to fail? And the question is, or the answer is, yes. In fact, we have failed many times already. So failing is not a problem. We've did that billions of times. That's why we are here. So don't worry about failing. Our duty is to try our best to remember Krishna. That's our duty. And therefore, when we are in that situation of dying, it is our duty, and we need to make sure that the environment is promoting attachment to Krishna. The environment is promoting us to remember Krishna. That way we are facilitating a proper exit. So if you on the deathbed, or if some other souls and devotees on the deathbed, it is our duty to try to create a spiritual environment. Naturally, you will only create a spiritual environment when you are convinced, when you have the confidence that this is what's required. See, March preached it at 7 days, and we're going to hear what he did in those 7 days. We're going to hear what he was contemplating in those 7 days. Because according to his seriousness, according to what he wants, according to his confidence, he would bring upon himself what he wants. If we want material attachment, it will be brought to you. It will be attracted to you. And even after trying your best to create a spiritual environment, and our blessings is unlimited. Somebody may say, well, I'm alone, what can I do? Put Prabhupada's lecture, put Prabhupada's kirtan. Oh, you know you're dying? Put Prabhupada's kirtan. Oh, you don't know when you're going to die? Okay, keep Prabhupada's kirtan on. You can have the deities. You can have the devotees doing kirtan. In today's world of technology, we have the opportunity to keep the holy name vibrating. So therefore, there's no excuse. You are apparently alone, and you're not alone. The glory of technology. And when you try your best, you leave the rest up to Krishna. Whatever is shortfall, whatever the shortfall is, Prabhupada's mercy is there, the Acharya's mercy is there, the devotee's mercy is there, the devotee's prayers are there. Krishna is all kind, is merciful. He will do what is best for you. Have firm faith and confidence in that he will do what's best for you. And he is a jita. He's unconquerable, which means that if he decides this is best for you, it means that his will be done. He is unconquerable in every respect, which means that nobody can break or deviate or stop what Krishna wants. Because he has the power. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. That is what makes it wonderful. When we give our life to him, let him manage our situation, our life. When we surrender, we become free. Because he is in control. He knows past, present, future. He can decide what's best, and he is a jita, unconquerable. Right. Where we are. Knowing the transcendent position of the Lord and transcendent method by which one can approach that transcendental Dham, the king was confident about his ultimate destination. And by knowing this, he could leave aside everything material, even his body, without any difficulty of attachment. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Param Drishtva Nivartate, 259. One can give up all material attachments when one is able to see Param, superior quality of things. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand that the quality of the Lord's energy that is superior to material energy. And by the grace of a bona fide spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, it's quite possible to know everything of the superior energy by the Lord, by which the Lord manifests his eternal name, qualities, pastimes, paraphernalia, and variegatedness. unless one thoroughly understands this superior or eternal energy of the Lord, it is not possible to leave the material energy. However, one may theoretically speculate on the true nature of the absolute truth. So, another goal we can strive for. Have we thoroughly understood Prabhupada's books? Therefore, constantly reading, constantly discussing, constantly exposing ourselves so that we can understand more and more and more. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was able to receive the mercy of such a personality as Sukadeva Goswami, and thus he was able to know the actual position of the unconquerable Lord. It is very difficult to find the Lord from the Vedic literatures, but it is very easy to know him by the mercy of a liberated devotee like Sukadeva Goswami and Srila Prabhupada. So to have the Vedas, it's difficult to know that even if you know the Vedas, even if you have the Vedas. It needs to be learnt through the mercy of liberated devotees like Sukadeva Goswami, and in our case, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. In fact, we got Sukadeva Goswami and we got Srila Prabhupada giving us the wisdom. Prabhupada is elaborating. Consider Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, and add that, on top of that, add Prabhupada's purports. Prabhupada has expanded extensively for our benefit. Text 4. Notam asloka vartanam jusatam tat katamritam syatsam brahmontakalephi smaratam tat padambujam. This was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, do not run the risk of having misconceptions, even at the last moment of their lives. The highest perfection of life is attained by remembering the transcendental nature of the Lord at the last moment of one's life. Everyone wants perfection. Everyone wants success. Well, here's the definition. The highest perfection. What is the highest goal one can attain? One goal after another goal, after another goal, after another goal, after goal. What is the highest goal that one can achieve? Is attained by remembering the transcendental nature of the Lord at the last moment of one's life. That's the test. That's the test. So why are we chanting? Why are we engaged in devotional service? Why are we remembering the Lord? Why are we hearing the Bhagavatam? Why are we engaging deity service? Why are we doing devotional service? Why are we eating Krishna Prasad? So that we can achieve the highest perfection of life. And what is that? To remember the Lord at the last moment of one's life. That is where the examination takes place. Right now, throughout your life, it's all about preparation, remembrance, preparation, remembrance, preparation, remembrance. The examination, you're sitting down, the examination, you are writing that examination at the time of death. That last moment. So, when that last moment comes, what should you do? Let's ingrain that. Let's memorize that. Let's learn that. When that last moment comes, and it's going to come for every single one of us, it's going to come sooner or later. We don't know when, but it's going to come. And when it's going to come, we are prepared. What should we try to do? Remember the transcendental pastime, name, form of the Lord. Remember Krishna. And if you can't remember Krishna, pray to Krishna to remember him. If you pray to Krishna to remember him, you're still remembering him. So either way, my Lord, I'm so fallen. Please allow me to remember you. We see Gajendra. He was in that situation. He was dying. Then he remembered. even as an animal, Krishna gave him the remembrance of his past life to remember verses that he can offer and remember Krishna. See, we said Krishna is a Jita. He will never forsake you. If you're on this path of surrender, Krishna will never forsake you. And Gajendra is a perfect example. Krishna never forsaked him. His past was never lost. Even though he deviated, became an elephant, but his past was never lost. And Krishna protected him. How? He remembered Krishna. This perfection of life is possible for one who has learned the actual transcendental nature of the Lord from the Vedic hymns sung by a liberated soul like Sukadeva Goswami or someone in that line of disciplic succession. Hint, hint, who would that be? So Prabhupada is not saying himself, but yes, anyone in that line. For us, we know who that personality is. See, this perfection of life is possible. So that means Prabhupada is giving us the blessing, the possibility. It is possible. How is it possible? Because we got everything. It was impossible because no one had this knowledge. And even if you had this knowledge in the form of the Vedic scriptures, you had to learn Sanskrit. And even if you learned Sanskrit and you had the Vedas, you needed some pure devotee like Sukadeva Goswami to guide you through that. Otherwise, you would be bewildered in all the billions of verses of the Vedas. Because why? The Vedas cover the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. And therefore, it's a mixed masala. You would be completely confused, knowing what should I do? Should I worship Ganesh, Durga, Shiva, Parvati, Narayan, Vishnu? Who? What process? Meditation, deity worship, Sankirtan. What method do I do? What? I'm confused here. Because this verse is glorifying Lord Shiva, this verse is glorifying Narayan, this verse is glorifying Sankirtan, this verse is glorifying deity worship. Yagya, what do I do? Boy, this is confusing. That's why you need an acharya like Sukadeva Goswami. That is why Krishna left and told Sukadeva Goswami, you stay behind. We're all going back to the spiritual world. Sukadeva Goswami wasn't happy, but as a servant, okay, I'm not happy, but I have to do my service. There must be some service. Sukadeva Goswami was left behind for the souls of Kali Yuga. But even though Sukadeva Goswami was left behind by the souls of Kali Yuga, still we cannot access that knowledge for perfection. And therefore, for us, Lord Chaitanya sent Srila Prabhupada to give us that transcendental wisdom in English, in a language that is not refined as Sanskrit, in a language that the demigods would not dare to speak because they speak in Devanagari. And here we are, hearing about the glories of Krishna through the lips of Srila Prabhupada, guiding us, and therefore coming in the line of disciplic succession. And therefore, the perfection of life is very, very, very possible. We may have failed previously many, many, many billions of times because we did not have the knowledge coming in disciplic succession about Krishna by the mercy of a pure devotee, accessible on the palm of our hands. And now we have. There is no gain in hearing the Vedic hymns from some mental speculator. When the same is heard from an actual self-realized soul and is properly understood by service and submission, everything becomes transparently clear. So the knowledge we have, so everything that we need for perfection is available to us in our palm. There is no excuse. Now, what's missing is the attitude required for assimilation. And what is the proper attitude? Firstly, it's proper understanding. We need to engage the intelligence. We need to understand properly. And what is the attitude behind that to make it, to bear the desired fruit? By service and submission. That's required. And once that is there, we have the proper attitude of service and submission. We have the knowledge coming in line through disciplic succession. We have our link, Srila Prabhupada. There is no stopping. There is no stopping. Everything becomes transparently clear, and the destination is reached. Thus, a submissive disciple is able to live transcendently and continue to the end of life. So wonderful. Thus, a submissive disciple is able to live transcendently and continue to the end of life. Because when we write in the exam at the end, okay, if I'm writing the exam at the end of my life, what am I going to do for now till the end? Have a party? No, you're not going to have a party. Because if you have a party and you're casual, you're going to become a casualty. And then you're not going to be healthy. It's like a student is saying, okay, you know, I'm writing end of the year. It's like December. So it's January now. Hey, let's go party every single day, you know, drink till I'm drunk, you know, and just eat, you know, be merry, dance, have fun. Life will be good, you know, don't worry about anything and just carry on day in, day out till December. Well, when December comes, you will be unfit mentally, physically, emotionally, unfit to write that exam. In fact, you may be so diseased that that disease will force your thinking because you were negligent. So we need to live transcendentally. We need to keep ourselves in the fire of Krishna consciousness till the last moment. And param drishtanya vartate, when you acquire taste, then it's not a burden. Then it's not like, oh, really, another class? Oh, no. I mean, we don't say that, oh, another plate of prasad. We just had prasad yesterday. No, we're excited, we're happy. So when we acquire taste for prasadam, for kirtan, for association, for hearing about Krishna Katha, then we are living transcendently. Every single day we are blessed, and we're simply waiting for that final moment to remember Krishna, to return back to the spiritual world. By scientific adaptation, one is able to remember the Lord even at the end of life, when the power of remembrance is slackened due to dearrangement of bodily membranes. For a common man, it is very difficult to remember things as they are at the time of death. But by the grace of the Lord and his bona fide devotees, spiritual masters, one can get this opportunity without difficulty. And it was done in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. So someone may argue, oh yeah, but you know, the body decays and your memory cells decays and you lose your memory and you can't remember anything. And when death comes, what are you going to remember? Perfect example was Shamal Prabhu. He had a brain tumor and he couldn't remember anything. In fact, during his last moments, when you had to, last days, if you had to speak to him, you know, he wouldn't remember who you are. But he could remember Prabhupada, and he would remember pastimes of Prabhupada, and he would repeat that pastime. He didn't remember that he just told you the pastime, and he repeats the pastime again and again and again. It's like a broken record, a glorious broken record. He couldn't remember people's names, but he remembered the Mahamantra. So we're seeing it. What Prabhupada is writing it's happening. We can see it in front of our eyes. That yes, scientifically your body decays, memory decays, you will forget. But by the grace of the Lord, by the grace of his bona fide devotees, by the grace of the spiritual masters, note many, not just one can get the opportunity without difficulty. So we have everything, everything. There is absolutely no excuse besides you. Do you want it? Because if you want it, it's available. 5. Tavat kalirna prabhavet pravishto piha sarvata yavat isho mahan urvyam abhimanyave ekarat. As long as the great powerful son of Abhimanyu remains the emperor of the world, there is no chance for that personality of Kali. There's no chance that the personality of Kali will flourish. As we have already explained, the personality of Kali had entered the jurisdiction of this earth long ago, and he was looking for an opportunity to spread his influence all over the world. But he could not do so. He could not do so satisfactorily due to the presence of Maharaj Parikshit. That is the way of good government. That good government, the disturbing elements, like the personality of Kali, will always try to extend their nefarious activities. But it is a duty of the state, but is a duty of the able state to check them by all means. Although Maharaj Parikshit allotted places for the personality of Kali, at the same time, he gave no chance for the citizens to be swayed by the personality of Kali. So Maharaj Parikshit was an exemplary leader, and he was making the arrangements to make sure that Kali does not take advantage. Because as we mentioned, Kali will. And the leaders of the society, the leaders of the state, the leaders of the family need to make arrangements. As proper leaders, their duty is to make proper arrangement that Kali's influence does not increase. And for that, the formula is very simple. To counteract Kali, we bring Krishna. Text 6. Yasmin ahani yaryeva Bhagavan utsasarjagam tadeve hanu vrito sav adharma prabhava Kali. The very day and the moment the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, left this earth, the personality of Kali, who promotes all kinds of irreligious activities, came into this world. Purport. The personality of Godhead and his holy name, qualities, etc., are all identical. When Prabhupada said it is important for us to understand, this point needs to be understood. That when we associate with Krishna's holy name, pastimes, qualities, etc., we are directly associating with Krishna. The personality of Kali was not able to enter the jurisdiction of earth due to the presence of the personality of Godhead. And similarly, if there is an arrangement for the constant chanting of the holy name, qualities, etc., of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no chance at all for the personality of Kali to enter. That is the technique of driving away the personality of Kali from the world. So if somebody says, how do I keep Kali at bay? Well, that's the technique Prabhupada is giving to us, black and white, clearly, very clear. That we have to make, Prabhupada is, and look at the choice of words. If there is an arrangement, it's not going to be automatic. You need to make the arrangement. For what? For the constant chanting of the holy name and qualities, etc. of the personality of Godhead. Constant. It needs to keep going again and again and again and again. That's preparation. That's protection. As long as we do that, and again with technology, we are blessed to do that. We'll be able to protect ourselves from Kali. In modernized human society, there are great advancements of material science, and they have invented the radio to distribute sound in the air. So instead of vibrating some nuisance sound for sense enjoyment, if the state arranges to distribute transcendental sound by resounding the holy name, fame, and activities of the Lord, as they are authoritatively given in the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, then a favorable condition will be created and the principle of religion will be re-established in the world. And thus, the executive heads who are so anxious to drive away corruption from the world will be successful. Nothing is bad if properly used for the service. So again, Prabhupada is hinting back to the state leaders. Okay, so you need to know how to remove corruption. Well, there you are. You got radio, you got TV, broadcast the glories of Krishna, and see what happens. Okay, so that's their business, the state's business. Let's work on our business. Okay, so let me broadcast within my environment the glories of Krishna. And if I do that within my own life, Kali will disappear simply by glorifying the glories of Krishna, his name, his qualities, his pastimes, constantly. So Prabhupada is giving us what we need to do throughout our life to live transcendently while we wait for that opportune moment at the time of death to think of Krishna so that we can go back eternally to his shelter. Text 7. Nanu dwesti kalim samrat sharanga iva sharabuk ushalanyasu siddhanti netarani tritaniyat. Maj Parikshit was a realist, like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower. He knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. So he was never envious of the personality of Kali. So now we are hearing about the benefit. Maj Parikshit was a realist. He is taking the essence of Kali, the personality of Kali, which is glorious. So it's interesting. Kali is an enemy. Maj Parikshit is able to see the essence, which is the most auspicious aspect of the most degraded personality of the age of Kali. What a brilliant and glorious quality. That I can see the good even in the worst situation, in the worst personality. And what is this glorious situation of the age of Kali that Maj Parikshit is seeing? He knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be performed. What does that mean? Let's hear from Srila Prabhupada and then we'll expand. The age of Kali is called the fallen age. In this fallen age, because the living beings are in an awkward position, Supreme Lord has given some special facilities to them. So think or remember all that we have discussed now. And now we are seeing Krishna's mercy. All that we have discussed, we need to act, we need to do something. But here we see now Krishna is even increasing or adding the factor of his mercy. Not that his mercy wasn't there in the form of giving us the holy name, but now we see Krishna adding Krishna's mercy coming into the fold. So by the will of the Lord, a living being does not become a victim of a sinful act until the act is actually performed. On the contrary, a living being in this age is awarded the results of pious acts simply by thinking of that. Keep this statement in mind. On the contrary, a living being in this age is awarded the result of pious acts simply by thinking of them. The power of thinking, especially of pious acts. We're going to expand on that. Maharaj Parikshit, being the most learned and experienced king by the grace of the Lord, was not unnecessarily envious of the personality of Kali, because the king did not intend to give him any chance to perform any sinful act. The king protected his subjects from falling prey to the sinful acts of the age of Kali, and at the same time he gave full facility to the personality of Kali by allotting him some particular places. At the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that even though all nefarious activities of the personality of Kali are present, there is a great advantage in the age of Kali. And what is that advantage? One can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So the first most important aspect, blessing, boon, glory of this age, auspiciousness of this age, is that I can attain the result of pious acts simply by thinking of them. And the second is I can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thus, Maharaj Parikshit made an organized effort to propagate the chanting of the Lord's holy name, and thus he saved the citizens from the clutches of Kali. It is for this advantage only that the great sages sometimes wish all good for the age of Kali. In the Vedas also it is said that by discourse on Lord Krishna's activities, one can get rid of all disadvantages of the age of Kali. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also said that by the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme Lord becomes at once arrested within one's heart. These are some of the great advantages of the age of Kali. And Maharaj Parikshit took all the advantages and did not think any ill of the personality of Kali, true to his Vaishnavite cult. So see the good even in the worst situation of people. Maharaj Parikshit is able to see that. We see Prabhupada doing that again and again. Prabhupada would be able to see the good and fan that good in people. He could extract the good in every situation. So, what is the advantage of Kali Yuga? In the previous ages, if you just thought of pious activities, you got the result of pious activities. If you thought of sinful activities, you got the result of sinful activities. That is the danger of the previous age, or the good and the bad. The good is that you get the benefit of the pious just by remembering or thinking of the pious activities, but bad is that you get the result of sinful activities even just by thinking. I'm trying to remember Parshuram's mother's name. So Parshuram had 4 brothers, and one time his mother slips my mind. Somebody can Google mother of Parshuram. So she one time went and she actually saw Indra with another lady. And she just thought of that enjoying that enjoying propensity. Renuka. Right. Jamdagni was the father and Renuka was the wife, the mother of Parshuram. So when Renuka thought of that, she didn't act. This was in previous ages. She just thought of that, nice to enjoy like that. When she came back to the ashram, Sage Devnagni told his first son, cut the head of your mother. Can I do that? Told his second son, cut the head of your mother. How can I do that? Third son, same thing. Then came to Parshuram, told Parshuram, cut the head of your mother, and all the other sons who did disobey my order. Parshuram took his sword, cut the head of his mother, and cut the heads of all the sons. The mother got an instant reaction just by thinking. Just consider if that had to be in the age of Kali Yuga, we would be dead. Not just once, again and again and again, because of all the nonsense that goes on in our head. So when Parshuram killed his mother and his brothers, his father was very happy with him. And his father said, ask for a boon. Parshuram said, revive my mother and my brothers and make sure that when they come to life, they don't remember what happened. And in this way, they come back to life. So the point is, in this age of Kali Yuga, the sinful thoughts, you do not get a reaction immediately until you act on it. Also, the action takes a little time. So, one, when you think of a bad thought and you start contemplating on that bad thought, then that becomes an force that will allow you to act and you get a reaction. So at least you have time to check it, time to purify it. So sinful activities does not give you a result in this age of Kali Yuga. Glorious, blessing, benediction. Otherwise we will be in trouble. But the most glorious part of the age of Kali is that by thinking of pious activities, you get the result. What does that mean? If you just think of eating prasad, you get the benefit of eating prasad. If you just think of chanting the holy name, you get the benefit of chanting the holy name. If you just think of devotional service, you get the benefit of devotional service. If you just think of hearing the Bhagavatam, you get the benefit of those activities. How wonderful. That does not mean that I just think. But if just by thinking of those activities, I can increase my spiritual bank account, how glorious is this age when I actually engage and act on those activities. The blessing, the mercy, the potency is unreal. Therefore, to be born in Kali Yuga, the sages glorify this age and those who are born in this age. And on top of that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give his mercy. And on top of that, the process that he has come to give is simply by chanting the holy names of Krishna. So simple. Yet Prabhupada would say sublime, wonderful, glorious. So now we don't need to complain about the age of Kali. Just contemplate on this glorious age that we are born in. We have everything. The mercy, the process, the acharya, everything is there. Text 8. Kim nu baleshu surena kalina dira piruna apramata prameteshu yovriko nrishu vartate. Maj Parikshit, considered that less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but those who are self-controlled would have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care of the foolish, careless persons. Purport. Those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. Unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. Those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. It will not be possible to bring about a saner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit. That is, propagation of devotional service to the Lord, to the common man. So again, Prabhupada is preaching to the leaders. You want rectification, you want to eradicate corruption, devotional service to the Lord is a must. It's not an option, it's not a choice, it's a must. Otherwise, you are wasting your time. Right? If you want to rectify your side, your mentality, devotional service is a must. It's not an option. And sometimes you need people like Maharaj Parikshit to enforce it, so that by force, by law, they'll be accepted. Prabhupada also makes it very clear that one who's a devotee is intelligent. Susumeda side requires some intelligence to understand this wonderful Krishna conscious wisdom, to be intelligent, to say, yes, this is the situation. We can see Prabhupada is giving it to us in black and white, so clear, very concisely, very clearly, no ambiguity, no beating around the bush, no decoding. It's not like codes you have to figure out and try to uncode it and so it's like figure out, okay, this is what it is. Need an AI to interpret exactly what Prabhupada. It's very simple English, clear, straightforward. Again and again, Prabhupada is laying down very clear roadmap. We simply have to embrace it, digest it, assimilate it, apply it, and get the benefit. 9. Upavarnitam etadva punyam parikshitam maya vasudeva katopetam akyanam yad aprachata. O sages, as you did ask me, now I have described almost everything regarding the narration about Lord Krishna in connection with the history of the pious Maharaj Parikshit. Srimad Bhagavatam is the history of the activities of the Lord, and the activities of the Lord are performed in relation with the devotees of the Lord. Therefore, the history of the devotees is not different from the history of Lord Krishna's activities. A devotee of the Lord regards both the activities of the Lord and those of his pure devotee on an equal level, but they are all transcendental. So hearing the activities of the Lord, hearing the activities of Maharaj Parikshit, hearing the activities of Srila Prabhupada, they are all transcendental, they are all equal. Because why? Prabhupada is connected to none other than Supreme Lord Krishna. And therefore, by hearing about the pastimes of Prabhupada, we are Krishna conscious. By hearing the pastimes of the previous acharyas, we are Krishna conscious. By hearing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, all his associates, all the devotees, we are Lord Chaitanya conscious. We are Radha and Krishna conscious. This is the beautiful benediction that we have. Unlimited, so much to hear about from these great personalities, all connected to Krishna. 10. Ya kata bhagavata kata niyo rukarmana una karma shraya pumbi samsevyasta bubu shubi. Those who are desirous of achieving complete perfection in life must submissively hear all the topics that are connected with the transcendental activities and qualities of the personality of Godhead, who acts wonderfully. Purport. The systematic hearing of the transcendental activities, qualities, and names of Lord Shri Krishna pushes one towards eternal life. Systematic hearing means knowing him gradually in truth and fact. And this knowing him in truth and fact means attaining eternal life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, such transcendental glorified activities of the Lord Shri Krishna are the prescribed remedy for counteracting the process of birth, death, old age, and disease, which are considered to be the material awards for the conditioned living being. The culmination of such a perfectional stage of life is the goal of human life and the attainment of transcendental bliss. And Srila Prabhupada, by his own example, illustrated this, systematically propagating Krishna consciousness, systematically giving us Bhagavad Gita, systematically giving us Srimad Bhagavatam, giving us, revealing to us the glories of Radha and Krishna. He spent his life for us, giving us the remedy, the perfect remedy for all souls of Kali Yuga. And he lived that remedy. And his last moment, Prabhupada perfected or showed us by practical example as an acharya to remember Krishna. And in this way, left this world surrounded by his loving associates and returned eternally in the service of Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world, where every single one of our destination lies, at the eternal shelter and service of Radha and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya's associates, the acharyas in the spiritual world. And the secret is systematic hearing. The truth about Krishna. And the Bhagavatam, by doing this with the Bhagavatam is systematically revealing the truths of Krishna. Canto by canto, verse by verse, giving us everything we need to know about the Supreme Lord. And we have a submissive attitude of hearing, accepting, and the attitude of service. We can also derive the full benefit of the gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Grantarat, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai, Gopramanande, Hari Hari Bol. If there are any questions or comments, please type that in the chat. Any feedback? We got a few minutes before load shedding starts. And next week, we will continue with chapter 18. Nalini Kanta Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, wonderful class, thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your feedback, Nalini Kanta Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Simply, we have to thank and be grateful to Srila Prabhupada again and again and again. And in that gratitude, accept what Prabhupada is giving us, share it with others, apply it in our life, and it will be the greatest blessing ever, without fail. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, these concessions in Kali Yuga are really amazing, fortified by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada and the associates and Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you for sharing these pastimes of Maharaj Puricha and Kali with us from Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's purport. It's my pleasure, my own purification and remembrance. Force me to remember. And yes, the concession is glorious. It's, in fact, if we really understand it, we faint just thinking about it. Just consider, it's like I can get the scriptures glorify. Okay, let me give you an example. It's ascribed, if you put tilak on your forehead, there's so many glories about tilak on the forehead. And just by putting tilak, we eradicate unlimited sins. Just by that activity. Or take another one, just by seeing Tulsi Devi, eradicate so much sin. Now just consider that just by thinking of applying tilak, or just by thinking of seeing Tulsi Devi, I can eradicate sins. How can you not be purified? Every activity of devotional service, just by thinking of those activities, how can you not be purified? This is why you find in the material world, motivational people, they sell millions, they sell, and they sell this concept to people that just by thinking you can achieve. And people spend millions of rands to get this point. Because thought is so powerful in the age of Kali Yuga. So for us, we have to always, in this way, that's why you find Krishna is emphasizing, man mana bhava mad bhakta, think of me. Prabhupada is emphasizing, think of Krishna. So in every way, whatever you think of, try to think of Krishna, think of devotional service, think of nectar devotion, all the activities, the 64 angas. Just by thinking, you are engaging in those activities and you're getting the benefit of those activities without even actively engaging those activities. How glorious, how wonderful. Who will not take advantage of such a benediction? Madhachana Siddhi, thank you very much for this amazing session. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All right, so we will end there. Thank you everyone online for your presence and association. Until next week, please continue thinking of all the activities of Krishna and in this way, bathe in the glories of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, itai, go pramande, Hari Hari Bol.